Hello and welcome to the Make Australian Football Fun Society. Another meeting is convened. As Blake Hampton says via YouTube, 8:01, the anticipation builds. Yes, it does. Every night, people tune into MAFFS across Australia. It's one of the most popular shows we're only on Mondays, but I don't know why they're probably watching all the replays, all the old episodes, all the classic ones, It's like, do you think, guys, that maybe MAFFS is going to be basically what, Seinfeld or Friends or MASH is for Australian television, where just all the old classics are just repeated all the time, and you can just guarantee that on some secondary or third channel, this show is going to be on. What do you think, Joe?
Yeah, absolutely. I think 10 Bold in a few years' time, I can see them replaying the time we spoke to Josh Parrish down at the Veneto Club about the time we brought up the horse. I think there's some classic reruns. Seinfeld, look, we got a fair way to go, but there's still time.
Yeah, look, let us know in the comments what classic MAFFS episodes you want to be rerun on 10 Bold or 9 Go. Teo Pellizzeri, we've been told that MAFFS is currently trending. What did you guys do? That's from Oscar via Twitter. MAFFS currently trending. Now, some people would say that there's an F missing in that MAFFS trending, but that's all right. That's all right. That's not details, small little details. We'll be putting out a statement later today, acknowledging and talking about the future action. But Teo, how are you, my friend? How was your weekend?
I'm good, and I've got to say that Media Week once wrote about a game I commentated that the ratings were so low. Can the last one out please turn off the lights? So Media Week, I'm glad that I am now part of a show that is leading the conversation every single day of the week. 15 million downloads, as we know, for MAFFS, and delighted to be back, fellas.
Yi says via YouTube, looking at Stoll's internet quality, I thought I was watching a classic from 2005. Yes, baby, my internet is shocking. I'm sure that there's a lot going on in my house. We're running multiple internet scams. Have you heard of pig butchering? This is a new thing I found out about this week. Basically, if someone randomly adds you on the internet, do not respond. It is a scam. Found that out the hard way. Look, guys, let's get into it. It was a big week. What happened? But it was just a few days ago that we smashed Uzbekistan. Was it 10-0, 13-0 by aggregate? An incredible win. Also made me remember what we talked about the other week, which was how the consistency of our 31-0 victory against American Samoa, because Joe, I think it was like 3-0 after 6 minutes or something. The Matildas Uzbekistan game, and there was a feeling like that. Well, we could be on for a nice 31-0 here, but it's not easy to keep up that kind of basically that amount of goals per minute ratio. But it was an incredible match in Melbourne.
It's not easy. I mean, we did see America Samoa hold off the Socceroos for the good 10 minutes. So it was 0-0 after 10 minutes. So, I mean, you can come on in short bursts and score 31 in 80 minutes. You don't need the full 90. But it was a great performance. Is it cruel? I found it a little bit cruel. I felt a little bit sorry. I mean, and also...
Why is it cruel? Why is it cruel? Explain.
Why is it cruel? I just felt bad. It didn't... After the third goal went in, like you mentioned... Yeah. Let's just roll over. I think we didn't need to put the foot on the throttle. Yes.
Uzbekistan well and truly took their revenge on Australia for us beating them 10-0, and I don't think you should not feel any sympathy for them because of their response to us knocking them out of the Olympics.
Yeah, it really is. It is a dog eat dog world, and the weather gods were with them. Is Australia Uzbekistan now a traditional rivalry?
I like to think so. I like to think that this will be talked about for years to come in Tashkent, which is a great capital city. I think, you say it's harsh. I think it's great because, you think about there's a lot of new Matildas fans out there and, a lot of young Matildas fans. And there's a lot of talk of the TikTok generation and do they have the ability to focus on a game for long enough? When there's a goal happening every 5 minutes, then for sure they can get in. They can get, they can celebrate a lot. Look, trust me, I've been to many a game of football where there's a lot of new fans who've come in just to see what this is all about and see if that, and then you're there in 0-0 and you're just looking at everyone like, look, guys, I'm telling you, it's not this bad usually. It's not this bad usually. Everyone was having a good time. The Uzbeks, they got a free holiday out here, I mean,
that's true. You know what? It was 35 seconds ago. I said I felt bad, but you guys have fully convinced me. It should have been 20. I don't know what we were thinking stopping so early. I'm fully on board now.
Taya, American Samoa had a documentary and a Hollywood movie made about them because of their 31-0 loss. Is this the future for Uzbekistan's women's team? Is this a future storyline here?
Well, let's not forget they are the gold standard that we're pursuing in men's football now off the back of the Asian Cup. So they've become exceedingly relevant. It seems as though the Tashkent stop on the Silk Road seems to be where all Australian roads are leading at the moment.
Look, we are off to Paris, which is good. It's good fun. It's going to be a hell of a tournament, extremely competitive. I just recently watched Spain's women's team won the Nations League, and let me tell you, I hope we do not get them in the group stage because they are a pretty formidable team. But Joe, how do you think we're going to go in Paris, and what are you looking forward to most? And, you know, do you want to see Michelle Heyman on the plane and all these other talking points coming out of the game?
Michelle Heyman definitely deserves to be on the plane, I think. I think there is certainly a spot for her. To be honest, I was thinking about how we might go. I think it'll be quite similar to the Women's World Cup last year. I think that's the kind of...
Semi-finals?
There was a big buzz. It's a chance. It's a definite chance. It will be a bit more challenging. I think, obviously, the home crowd and the buzz we had here certainly picked up the Matildas and helped a few results just get over the line. But they definitely have the quality. Sam Kerr missing, not ideal, but you've got to remember she missed a lot of pretty much all except for her one outstanding goal of the World Cup. So they've proven they can do it without her. And I think it's a similar, I don't know about you, Teo, you probably have better insight than I do, but I think semis are realistic.
It's Olympics. Olympics is a different tournament. It's a different tournament.
No. I think we've got one foot in there because of the stupid tournament format. 12 teams, 3 groups, and 2 of the 3 third place teams go through. I hate these tournament formats.
Anything can happen.
How hard is it? Are the IOC that strapped for cash that they couldn't find 4 more teams to have a 16-team tournament? It makes absolutely no sense.
Really good point from Blake Hampton. The goal celebrations from 6 to 10 were lacking compared to 1 to 5. Yeah, this is an important point, Blake, and it's really good. We need to, you know, when you see Mikel Arteta in All or Nothing, and he's always talking about the fucking standards, guys. Guys, these are the fucking standards that we need to do. The standards for goal celebrations needs to improve. All right. When you win, you know, you score 1-0, you've still got the game to focus on. But when you're up 6-0, this is the time to break out the big celebrations. This is the time to do what we talked about last week, which is the fake injury, pretend to pull your hamstring into a dance celebration. You know, that would have been good to see. We actually saw that in the MPL Victoria this week, we should say. But I got to say, and Josh Parrish did send us the video in. The player in question, whose name I do forget, I do apologize, but just over-egged the fake hamstring injury. And it was clear that he actually wasn't injured because he was kind of too enthusiastically pretending to hobble. Joe, what were your thoughts on that celebration?
Yeah, look, if you're going to prepare, you know, if you fail to prepare, you're preparing to fail. And I think obviously you got to be excited. It would be hard after scoring a goal like that. You know, you want to make the best of it. When I thought about this, about the non-scoring, we saw Marco Rojas on the weekend not celebrating his old club victory, which I'm sure we'll get onto. We don't like that. That's not fun. But I remember that it was a brilliant bowler a couple of years ago. He plays for Switzerland, but was born in Cameroon. And he scored for Switzerland against Cameroon, and he put the arms up and refused to celebrate against his home country. Imagine annoying a whole country of your origin because you scored against them. It's a completely different ballpark to a team you used to play for.
Yeah, we're going to get into the Rojas thing because I do want to ask a few questions on that. John says via Twitter, does anyone know the Matildas XG for the game? Felt like we underperformed on that front. Jeez, John, you're being a bit harsh, mate. We won 10-0. Let's not worry about, our XG and did we convert all our chances and all that. So we'll see about that. But look, the future is bright because the Matildas are off to the Paris for the Olympics. But the future is even more bright because we went away. The young Matildas went away to Tashkent. I'd say, what would you say, Joe? 75% of the pitch was covered in snow.
I reckon that's about right. I reckon to be fair, I've been to Mount Buller almost every year for the past maybe 10 years. And I
well. I know. I don't want to pull that rule, but
I pulled that out early.
Get out your charcuterie board. Wow.
Hey, I said Buller. I didn't say Perish or anything like that. All right. But my point is, I reckon I've snowboarded on worse terrain more patchy terrain than that. So
wow,
yeah, it was difficult conditions. I haven't seen anything like that. Obviously, I've seen snow on a pitch, but usually the shovels come out like the ball boys at the tennis. They've got the towels coming out. But no, there were no shovels to be seen.
Well, what I found really funny about it, Teo, was that it seemed like someone had only been paid to do half the pitch, or they were just like, look, I'm doing the outsides. That's it. That's all you're getting. Or at the very least, they'd turned up like 45 minutes late. So I was like, look, just do the best you can. And they were like, all right, what's more important, the wings or the center? And it was like, yeah, just do the outside. That'll be good enough. But it was very odd when the players walked out. The referee was standing ankle deep in snow. We saw, I don't know if you saw in the MLS this week, I think it was a Real Salt Lake against LA Galaxy or something like that. They were playing in incredible snow, but at least it kind of looked consistent and it was falling heavily. This was a very, very strange thing to see. We talked about it previously that we wanted to see, the orange ball come out. We'd love to see a bit of that chaos. But I mean, this was ridiculous, Teo.
There's a photo. So as you can see, it's asymmetrical.
Yeah.
What were they? So they had a little go-kart sort of thing going around that could have been construed as a snowplow. It didn't appear to actually go onto that surface. At halftime and pregame, there were a good 40 people out there with shovels, but not really shoveling, almost like they had been told to turn up, but maybe they were volunteers not getting paid. I don't know if the Shovelers Union in Uzbekistan is a really strong group. And this is kind of like the Sopranos, where they had it wasn't a no-show job, but it was a no-work job. They all had to turn up and shoot the shit sitting around in a circle, but none of them were meant to actually do any work. All I would say is if you're at that stadium, just check you haven't had a massive roll of copper wire stolen, just in case the sit-in workers decided to make off with some resources. Look, perhaps the most damning thing, Stoll, is, and there's a Twitter account for everything these days, there are a few people that cover the Uzbekistan National League in English, and they showed men's league games all across the country, totally fine, cleared the snow.
Wow.
It's not like this technology is beyond Uzbekistan. They just didn't care. They just didn't care. They had the human resources there to clear the snow. It's like Jerry Seinfeld. We were talking about Seinfeld earlier. You can take the reservation, but you can't hold the reservation. They turned up with shovels and didn't use them. Anyway, there was, in addition to Australia winning, there was one very MAFFS-y thing, which is what I found fun in Australian football this week, that I want to take out of this game, because one of the players that scored, Peter Trimmis, had already basically become a national hero for doing this earlier in the game. South Korea won a free kick, and you can see them clearing a space in the snow. And look at her. She comes across and kicks the snow back into the hole. And if you missed it, I'll play it.
That is MAFFS Hall of Fame stuff. All right, going and just shit housing. Does a Korean player throw a snowball at her?
She gets snowballed at the end there.
You know what?
This is only 10 minutes into the game, so it could have been a lot more antagonistic than that. But that was the sort of situation it was.
How funny would it be if you were playing in snow and you had a corner or something and you just got a bit of a snowball and just threw it at the opposition keeper and then ran in and smashed the header in? I got to say, our equalizer scored, I think it was kind of late in the second half, perfectly used the conditions of the snow. So, well done for them for realizing, what was needed in that moment. Because when I first saw it, I was like, okay, guys, we're going to have to play it to the wings a lot. Let's get this ball wide. Overloads on each wing is going to be the key to this game. But I can't remember who it was. Maybe Tay, you can help me out here. But there was a chipped through ball played over the top, which usually in normal conditions would have naturally just kind of bounced and continued on straight into the keeper's arms. But it just stopped perfectly for the striker to run in, take the ball and score. It was like, I've played a lot of beach football in my time. There is a similar kind of surface there, but well done for the young Matildas, which we've got to say, look, they wouldn't have much experience, if any at all, playing in these type of conditions. I mean, I'm just talking snow, never mind, the mountains of Perisher Blue or whatever Joe's used to on the ski fields there. But, I think it's an amazing result considering the conditions. I don't know if Korea has had that much experience. I don't think anyone's really had experience playing in those type of conditions, because it does seem like something that you do for 2 seconds and go, haha, this is funny, but let's not actually do this. Never mind in a professional game. But Taylor, who was the player who scored the goal and did the assist as well?
The goal scorer was Peter Trimmis, who we saw kicking the snow in there. And the assist was Lara Gooch, who, friend of the show, Oscar Rutherford, once described as the Sam Allardyce of Australian football, in that if her name was If her name was Lara Gucci, we'd all think she's
Oh,
amazing, but she's just
very
Lara
good.
Gucci.
Well, I think she's amazing at all. Sky Blue Views says not being able to play through midfield is very on point for Australian football teams. Joseph Ciccone says under 20 Matildas was peak Arnie Ball. The snow is lava. Is what we always love good ideas. Can you build a literal wall out of snow in front of a free kick? There was enough snow. You're on it. I mean, I'm giving compliments to the young Matildas for good tactics, but that would have been even better tactics.
If I'm the keeper here, I'm building a small wall in front of my goal. So on the goal line, nothing can get through on the ground.
Yeah.
If I'm an attacker, I'm building maybe a couple of like a bicycle berm on a track. So wherever you kick it, it kind of redirects into the goal. There's definitely room for creativity there.
I think if I'm the keeper, I'm taking as much snow as possible and putting it on my line so that even if a ball trickles past me, if it just kind of falls out of my hands,
Exactly.
I've still got a line of defense there as well. Let us know what are your snow tactics. Evidently, the AFC doesn't seem to care enough to avoid this in the future, so we're going to have to come up with tactics. But look, well done to the young Matildas, fantastic result, and well done to Teo for commentating. Lewis F451 says Teo describing 3 Koreans digging a hole in the snow as a Doug trio. MAFF for me this week.
Wow.
What a millennial, Teo! You know how to get the kids.
To be fair, I only know the first 150 Pokemon. I'm how many are they up to now? Like 3,000?
After Mewtwo, that was out. That was it.
Yeah,
that was my only...
that Mewtwo is all you need. I got to say,
Sorry, Teo.
No, you've got a point on Pokemon. I don't.
I do. I was going to say, well, if Doug Trio were playing for the young Matildas, they're a midfield 3. You would think, and you mentioned Mewtwo, he'd probably be good up top. But Teo, obviously you're the Pokemon guy here, so what do you think?
I don't know.
There was one who had a really good kick. There was like a kick was their big. They were like basically like a karate monster or something. Oh, look, I'm not a big Pokemon guy, but I remember one had a good kick. Look, I haven't traded.
Let us know in the comments who had a good kick.
I was like, there was one guy. He was basically like a giant head with legs. That was basically it. There was
Hitmonlee. There we go.
Hitmonlee? Are you serious?
Yeah.
There was an Australian Pokemon called Dugong, which I always resonated with. Wasn't actually very useful in a fight, but I always enjoyed that there was one named after an Australian animal. So.
Edmund Our Young says Asian Football Federation is always the dunce of all the FIFA federations without fail. I don't know, mate. The South American Football Federation is up there. AFCON. You've seen AFCON over the years. There's been some pretty impressive. Look, Oceania. Let's not even get onto them. I mean, I think it's a very competitive field, but it's a good point.
I mean, just 2 weeks ago, we were discussing Oceania having their Continental Cup final at 3 p.m. on a Monday because they needed to hold it during business hours.
Yeah, look, I think what you're finding is incompetence among football federations and football confederations is very much football heritage. Football has become the world's most popular game, maybe the most popular cultural event, largely in spite of their incompetence, not because of their wonderful work. So it just shows you, if you're looking for great administrators, don't need them. Football is inevitable. It'll rise to the top.
Well, speaking of great administrators, and I haven't been able to find who tweeted it so I can give them credit. I think it might have been Sasha Gurianov who said just last week that Gianni Infantino is investigating holding February 29th every 2 years. I enjoyed that.
Very good.
Yeah, very good. Look, Joe, what made Australian football fun for you this week?
Hey, this is early. 19 minutes in.
Yeah.
Almost unprepared.
I'm more professional this week.
The snow was great, but I enjoyed a lot of the young players that are coming through in the A-League. We had Noah Botic. He's 22, still considered young, but he's in great form. 4 goals in 6 games. And then we got the MacArthur boys, Raphael and Bernardo. They're doing great things there. Oof. Thomas Waddingham. We had a nickname because we were looking for nicknames for him last week. Someone said Thomas Waddington is his nickname. We also had the Great Barrier Chief. Not as good.
I love the Great Barrier
like
Chief.
that.
You like it?
God. Who came up with the Great Barrier Chief? That's unbelievable.
Great. Then we've got Ben Old as well. He's doing great things, and Alex Paulson, the best keeper in the world. So there's a lot of young players that are shining through, and it's really great to see.
Yes. Look, just on Tom Waddington, what I say, Vince Rigari, friend of the show.
No, Stoll. His name is Waddingham. You just called him Waddington.
Waddingham.
That's his nickname. He likes it. Depends where you grew up.
My internet's a bit slow. I'm still getting the but we've got to give credit to Vince Rigari, friend of the show, who came up with another nickname. So the Great Barrier Reef is unbelievable. I think these are going right to the top of the thing. Great Barrier Reef, but also Tropic Thunder. Tropic Thunder is a great nickname from Vince Rigari. I love it. I was going to sit down and come up with as many nicknames as possible and see what one. But when I heard that, I was like, that is fantastic. So Great Barrier Reef, Tropic Thunder, and now he's playing up front with the Kiwi Messi. I mean, this is a real marketing dream.
Kiwi Messi.
Come to Brisbane, watch the Kiwi Messi, watch the Great Barrier Reef, get accosted by some police. Have a great day out. It's all there for you. We are going to get into
why I find Waddingham refreshing is it's an Australian centre forward who immediately does not get compared to Mark Viduka. And I'm actually struggling. I'm struggling to think about what player comparison we can actually make to him, because he's got a bit of a poacher's instinct. He's probably still learning how to play with his back to goal. And he does seem like a bit of an opportunist. If anything, I'd say he's a lot closer to Adam Taggart if I was looking for a striker comparison than, say, Noah Bodic, who, again, as soon as he appeared on the scene was, is this the next Mark Viduka? Look, he's been playing phenomenally. And one thing that, yes, we're going to get to the struggles of the A-League in the stands and off the pitch later in the podcast, but if you're looking for green shoots and reasons to watch this league, the number of young attacking players that are Australian that are playing well in the league is quite fun, because normally at this time of the year we have the articles or the conversations about how all the imports play in those positions and young Australians aren't breaking through. And this year it's different. And this year that is what makes the A-League really fun.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Just on the Brisbane Melbourne Victory game, first I'd like to say amazing goal from Zinedine Machach, one of the very kind of early MAFFS players. Just basically ran the length of the field. Really nice of Brisbane just to let him just go the whole way, just not even put in a tackle. Really, really good, hospitable atmosphere there. Just come on, Zinedine, we need to get your confidence up. You're such a fun player. I did also like that he ran straight to Tony Popovic and gave him a big hug. It must be contract renegotiation time, because I feel like if I was renegotiating my contract, every time I scored, even when I didn't score, even when someone else scored, just give Tony a big hug. And then as soon as that is signed, I'd be like, all right, I've never liked you. I was just doing that for the contract. But Joe, you brought up earlier, Marco Rojas, the Kiwi Messi, didn't celebrate against scoring old team, one of his old teams, because also he played for Wellington, of course. What did you make of that? What do you think of the non-celebration? And he almost apologized. I'm like, I always find that a little bit too much. The apology is almost like, guys, I'm so sorry. I'm just too good at football. This game is too easy for me. I just have to score against you. Like, I mean, you are trying to do it. You're apologizing for something that you are intending to do. It is quite odd.
It would be un-MAFFSy for me to say that I liked that behavior. I want celebrations. I understand you don't want to go over the top. Fair enough, but the people want to see it. Just keep that in mind. I also really like the back post kind of crouching diving header finish. I feel like if you score a goal like that, it's a really classy finish. We saw it's not easy. Haaland went for the foot. He was confused today. So when you score a goal like that, it's disappointing not to see a big celebration.
So, Taylor, it got me thinking, if the Socceroos were playing Scotland, for example, and big Harry Souttar came up for a free kick from the side or a corner, got his head on it, banged his head, smashed it in the back of the net, do you think he is celebrating against Scotland? Or is that a step too far? Is he giving it the big apology?
The question is his brother playing for Scotland in that game?
Even better.
Can you imagine a situation where John Souttar and Lyndon Dykes are playing for Scotland in a game against Australia, and it just becomes players celebrating in each other's faces as they exchange the goals back and forth?
Yeah, I mean, that's actually what I'd love to see. We should organise a friendly with Scotland just to make that happen. Joe, if we scored against Uruguay, if Bruno Fornaroli came and scored a banger against Uruguay, is he giving it to him? Is he saying, you didn't want me, you didn't want me? Is he kissing the Australian badge? What do you think?
I think he definitely is, and I think the Uruguayan fans would maybe like, hang on a minute, wait, who's who's this tuna guy? I think if I know Bruno, he's doing it for sure.
Yeah, I think so as well. I can see him doing it. Joseph Cecconi asked the question: does Volpato celebrate against Italy? Does Volpato celebrate against Australia? We still don't know.
Yeah.
That's why it's such a good question.
Can I just say on Volpato watch, Sassuolo have lost 2 really big 6-pointers in their last 2 games, and they are currently in free fall down the Serie A table. In fact, they have 20 points in 19th place. They are 3 from safety and 9 goals difference. Of course, Italy a bit behind the times. They don't qualify for World Cups anymore. They still use goal difference as their primary tiebreaker. Could never be us. Could never be Australia. But the team they lost to at the weekend, Verona, is the very team that is now in that lowest safe position. So they're on a 4-game losing streak, I should say, Sassuolo. And even though Volpato is getting game time, it has kind of coincided with them tumbling into the relegation zone, which is sad for the club and potentially could mean either Volpato starts every week in Serie B or could be on the move yet again if they go down.
All right, great point, because there's so many tangents I want to jump off with that thing. First, you mentioned Hellas Verona there, the arseholes who never played Hrustic. Hrustic has gone to the Eredivisie and scored, Joe, an absolute banger. Call it, cap him, get back in the squad. What do you say?
He's back. What I loved about this was he generates power off very little like back movement of his foot. It's a left foot curler goal if you haven't seen it, just outside the box, but it's so nonchalant there, the pull back and the finish. It's a really, really classy goal. What are they thinking not playing him?
Idiots, absolute idiots. He is such a good player. He's my favorite Socceroo, and I love to see him score that goal. So brilliant to see. Joseph Cecconi says MAFFS / Serie A. Someone called Debano. Yeah, Debano, jump on the show. You got the link somewhere in the chat. Come on the show. Be a part of it. But you also mentioned Serie B. There was rumors this week that oh my god, I've forgotten his name. Who's the fast guy at Newcastle Jets?
Trent Bahagia.
Trent Bahagia. There was rumors that he's going to play in Serie B. Teo, did you see this one coming?
I did, and I was as confused as everyone else, to be honest. I mean, this is just an outstanding piece of agent work, really. I mean, I'm sure over the course... Trent Bahagia does have a youthful exterior, so I'm sure you could take highlights from him from 3, 4, maybe even 5 years ago and put them into a convincing highlights package in order to make it seem as though it's all contemporary. Because like any YouTube package or compilation, if you compress someone's best stuff into 3 minutes, I think we've discussed this on MAFFS before, the best 3-minute player in Australian football, we were talking about Nestor Irankunda and Carlos Hernandez. Was it Trent Bahagia all along?
I mean, I never considered it because obviously what the scouts are seeing in Serie B is something that I'm not seeing. Oh, sorry. The weather here in Barcelona is a bit rough. Jesus.
Well, I mean, so in his favor, he is quick. And I don't know, maybe Italy, again, has fallen on hard times, can't qualify for World Cups. Maybe they're struggling to send... hey, they have the 100 meters champion in the Olympics. It shouldn't be that difficult for them to find quick men who can run in a straight line, and yet they're coming to us for Trent Bahagia, which to me says that maybe Trent Bahagia is in the wrong sport. If the nation of the Olympic champion in the 100 meter sprint is signing Trent Bahagia, then Trent Bahagia should be sprinting for Australia.
I do wonder, did they get their wires crossed with Postelos Stamatopoulos? They're seeing all his highlights and they've just gone, yeah. And then someone's gone, oh, do you mean Trent Bahagia? And they go, I guess, all your Australian names sound kind of similar to us. But yeah, Joseph also makes the point you need a minimum age of 33 to play in Serie B. So maybe Bahagia plays in the youth team, even though he's
for the next 7 years, yeah.
So he can develop to become a Serie B legend. But incredible time. There's also talk that I think Stamatopoulos is off to Serie B as well. So maybe the new hotbed of Australian football. It was once the English Premier League. It was more recently the Scottish League. Serie B might be where it's at. Who is going to buy the rights to see Serie B? Joe, will you be tuning in on a Monday morning at 3 a.m. to watch Serie B?
No, I won't. Still, unless of course it's on Stan Sport. Possibly I'll consider if Foz and Foz are covering it. But if not,
well,
no.
I don't know. Can I just say, not to be overly cynical about it, I think it's a great time to speak Italian if you want to work at the PFA, because they're going to be chasing a lot of people's wages if we're starting to export players to Serie B. Scottish Premier League, That's fine. But we had this infatuation with Romania and places in Eastern Europe for a while there, which never really worked out. Players being
Michael Thwaite out in Romania.
John McCain as well. And all the horror stories of guys not getting paid and having to chase their wages or having to chase releases from contracts and prohibitive player movement and all that. I'm just saying, Serie B, maybe ask for the money to be paid up front. Either that or make sure the PFA's got people who can speak Italian for you.
Yeah, really good. Hey, let's move on quickly to Wellington Phoenix 3, Adelaide United 2. Wellington top of the table, but Joe, your mate Paulson, do we need to start pulling down the statues because the penalty saves aren't happening anymore?
Listen, there's not much he could have done about that penalty. He couldn't have been closer to saving that one, and I almost thought as it was, the ball was traveling towards him, you kind of felt like he's going to save this, and he got very close. So no, but let's not be crazy. Let's not pull the statues down yet, but maybe let's hold off on the third one until he gets that dip of form, rectified.
Well, speaking of celebrations, the person who scored, I think it was Jovanovic, was it, who scored? Who was it who scored the goal?
Yeah, it was.
Jovanovic scored the penalty, and then he celebrated in front of Wellington Phoenix's active support. And you know what? I love to see that too. I love to see, even though you're down, you're losing the game, whatever. A lot of confidence from a young player, don't you think, Joe?
Yeah, and look, the crowd weren't happy, were they? I loved how loud watching that on the television, how loud you could hear the crowd behind the goal. Just give it back to him. Yeah, you love to see it. Rojas, you could learn a thing or two after that celebration, I think.
I've got to flag this because yes, Wellington are top of the league and flying on track to win their first piece of A-League silverware. Adelaide United are in free fall at the moment. In a couple of weeks on the 29th of March, I think it's a Friday night, they play Western United at Hindmarsh Stadium. The gap is only 4 points, and even though the goal difference gap is 14, the win gap is only 1 win. So is it possible that on the 29th of March, Adelaide versus Western United could be the spoon off and the loser gets the wooden spoon?
The spoon off. Yeah, I mean, definitely. I not to make a serious point on this show, but I kind of feel like Carl Vieta's taken that team as far as he can, and I think it's time to move on because I just think there's kind of a need for regeneration. I think there's a lot of quality there. I really like Johnny Yu. I don't know why he doesn't play more. We obviously see there's
I think the answer's simple. They need a coach who is hired under the pretense of you are here to bolster up our youth players, fatten up the transfer fees, and get them sold overseas. Carl Viet's a winner, and I said this on a previous MAFFS. Carl Viet is perfect for a team battling relegation. Whether he goes, he's been in the English football pyramid. Whether he goes back to League 2, League 1, takes on teams as a firefighter, he's the sort of person that just wants to get 3 points every weekend. Adelaide needs someone whose sole commitment is selling players overseas. And winning is just a happy coincidence of that.
It's weird how, as soon as they seem to do the deal with Bayern for Iran Kunda, it feels like the team lost a bit of momentum, kind of fell apart a little bit. And I don't, a lot of people are like, will this move get to the head of Iran Kunda? But I feel like it's more, has this move not so much got to Iran Kunda as much as it got to maybe Vid or the rest of the team?
No, but that also coincided with selling Stephen Hall to Brighton and also selling Alexander Popovich to the team in Korea. So
that's true.
Adelaide showed their hand. They played their cards. They're a selling club. They're a development club. And until further times when either their finances or their circumstances as a club are improved and they, can come out and say, all right, the selling's over. We're back to being a team that is going to try to keep our players and try to win. There's nothing wrong with this. I mean, I'm spinning this as a positive because Adelaide still gets great crowds and is a great football city that develops a lot of Socceroo and Matilda standard players, but they just kind of have to do their time if this is the objective of the club for now. And if they don't like it, now's the time to agitate for a second team. Adelaide should absolutely be a 2-team A-League town, and it doesn't make sense to me that they've never been talked about in future rounds of expansion so that they can have a game at Hindmarsh every weekend of the season.
Yeah, it's a really good point. And I mean, I think Adelaide overall has been one of the kind of great success stories of the A League and the A League era. And, they've had success in the Asian Champions League early on as well, and in the A League as well. So as you see, one of the other great success stories, you brought him up earlier, Joe, is Ben Old. And we talked about him previously, that his name confuses people because they just hear the word old and you just naturally assume he's old, no matter how old he in fact is, which is 21 years old. Do we think we need to rebrand him? Benjamin Button, I'm thinking, has to be the nickname for him.
Oh, he needs something new. Yeah. Oh, you don't want old. Like, you don't want to be called old. No one likes that. Old Gold, different story.
Ooh,
maybe Ben Gold.
Maybe that's Ben Gold.
No, I think he needs to call himself Ben Barrier Chief. I reckon that sounds pretty
cool. The windy wonder. The windy wonder.
I don't mind Old Gold. I mean, you can call him Rum and Raisin.
Okay, how about this? His middle name is Craig. How about he goes through sort of the Daniel Craig, James Bond sort of rebrand, the same way Daniel Craig did when he got the job, and calls himself Ben Craig. I actually think that would be the move here to change the perception that he's old.
You know what? I like that as well. But look, is it controversial? Because we're kind of getting into the pointy end of the season. I know people love to say that, the pointy end. Ben Old, is he a shout for player of the year, player of the season? Is he Johnny Warren medalist contention? I think he's been fantastic in all the games. I know Costa Barbarouses is probably going to take a lot of the plaudits for Wellington's season, but you think about how good Wellington have been. I think one of the key reasons has been Ben Old. Joe, am I crazy? Is that too far?
Look, if he keeps
maybe those are two separate questions. Actually, am I crazy? And have I gone too far?
Crazy, perhaps. You've gone too far. No, I don't think so. I think he could be in contention if he keeps the form up. I almost think his second goal is goal of the season. And there's been a lot of good goals this year, let alone through the whole season. But that was an amazing shot. Like, he's in such good touch. So, yes, I think if he keeps up this form, he could be up there. We all forget that how important Bruno was and his couple of quads and even Mashash for victory as well. I don't know, Teo, do you think he can keep it up?
Look, as far as winning the medal, I do think at this stage, Wellington have won 11, Central Coast have won 11. The next best is Sydney with 9. So when you think about it, highly likely for a Johnny Warren medal that someone from a team that wins the majority of their games, gets the majority of 3 and 2 vote performances, is going to end up with the medal at the end of the season. I think it's a great shout. I mean, I'm not sure there's anyone sort of from 6th down, so Wanderers down on the table, who has had that good an individual season in a team that doesn't win more than 50% of the time, who could make a claim to still saying that's the best player. I actually think Ulysses Davila is probably going to win it just because he is so integral. And look, I will disclose, I do vote on the Johnny Warren medal, but no, there's so many voters that you probably only ever pop up for a game once every 2 weeks. And it means, like, I'll go the entire season. There'll be at least 3 or 4 teams that I won't have given a vote for one of their games over the course of the season, just because, and it's balanced with media voters and a technical panel as well. So it's not purely a media voted award. So
is it a 3-2-1 system? Is that how it works? Kind of Brownlow vibes?
It is a 3-2-1 for every game. So if I had to pick right now, I would say Davila is my pick to win it.
Oh, Joe, I mean, this brings into question. Do we need to do the count? Do we need to get Crown Casino, get everyone in the room, have a few players get a bit too drunk and cause controversy for the next day's papers and have the dramatic count? What do you think?
Short answer, absolutely, we do. And I think we also need the vote, the people who are voting, such as yourself, Teo, in the room. But Teo, you said he would get your 3 votes. Would Angelo Torres, with the MAFFS inside your heart, would he be polling at this stage of the season?
Well, he might not be, because he picked up a red card so early in the season, it made him ineligible. So unlike the Brownlow, for instance, where you can continue to pick up votes and win the count even after you get suspended, once you've received that red card, that's it. So he'll be somewhere down near the bottom, because I don't think he would have got a vote before his red card.
Man,
I'll be completely honest with you. I'll be honest. I completely forgot about that red card. He's been
Yeah,
excellent
yeah.
since the red card. But yeah, that was a while ago.
That's how good he's been. That people forgot about his terrible start, at the start of the season when we thought, oh, this guy's going to be a bust. I mean, Marco Tullio probably got a lot of votes early on in the season. Josh Nisbet is another one who's probably a good shout to potentially win the medal. But I do feel sorry for Torres for that. I'm sure he doesn't know that that's part of the rule. And that probably obviously takes out one of my favorite players in the league. I still think he's the best player in the league, which is Tolgay Arslan. I think Tolgay Arslan is the best player in the league. He's not playing. He's been suspended, and Melbourne City are a bit of a disaster. I think they've won one game in their last 8 or something. But I am a little worried about what happens to him next season because I wonder if he wants to stick around. I hope he does, and I hope Melbourne City improves because he's such a good player. But it'll be interesting to see. Joseph says an A-League Brownlow will give us an Archie Thompson pressure point moment. Is that an AFL reference that I'm not getting?
Yeah, Brendan did that. Yeah.
Okay. But wasn't he drunk or something? And then it was, did he blame it on pressure points or something?
No,
absolutely, he was drunk.
Yeah, the long story short is Chris Judd was suspended or not suspended for applying a pressure point move to the neck of another player to try and get them to break a chokehold on him. And Brendan Favola saw that for the perhaps wafer-thin defense that it was.
Yeah. Okay. Nice. All right. Well, yeah. Brendan Favola now hosts, I think, National Breakfast Radio or something. So
I remember that radio.
There's a career in the future for Archie Thompson there. Look, let's quickly talk about the Sydney Derby, but we'll start with on the field matters. The press was exceptional from Sydney FC. A big win, 4-1. But it did make me think that have we invented RB Sydzig instead of RB Leipzig, RB Sydzig, because the way that they pressed, the way that they wouldn't let Wanderers play out, even though the Wanderers had the majority of possession. I think Sydney FC had something like that. I mean, this was the most Red Bull game ever. I think it had like 37% possession or something in the low 40s, and then an incredible amount of chances, incredible amount of shots. It feels like, Joe, that they're really starting to build now. They're building momentum. Come finals time, it feels like they're going to be a force.
Yeah, and you mentioned the pressing. It's a really good point. I noticed it the last few weeks, really, in the draw against Melbourne City, and then the week before that, possibly Adelaide, where they got over the line. Their pressing is really intense. What did you call them? RB Sydzig.
RB Sydzig. You like it or no? RB
It's a bit of a mouthful. Let us know in the comments. What do you think of RB Sydzig?
We could just go RB Sydney, but it just feels a little bit RBB Sydney.
Yeah, true. Well, I like the idea. Let's workshop it. Yeah, but no, they're definitely building momentum. And I think it's as you said, the pointy end of the year. If they keep this up, it's what they do is suffocate teams. And even if they're not playing at their best, they're making it very difficult for the opposition to create real key chances. And that's really important, especially this time of the year.
All right, Wizard of Woy Woy and a few people coming in with RB Leipzig. Leipzig. You've really got to emphasize the Sid. I mean, look, this is why we go to the chat. Look, it's not. You know what I like about this show? It's a yes and type of show. All right, my idea maybe it wasn't the best, but then people are just adding to it, and now we've got RB Leipzig. Yeah, there's some good stuff from the chat there. Look, it was really interesting in the post-match press conference. Marco Rudena, I don't know whether this was a little bit of mind games, but he gave credit to Sydney FC assistant coach David Zrilich, who. Look, for all intents and purposes, I will disclose that, he's a good friend of mine. I'm a big fan of Driller. But he said, Driller's come back. He's learned, he learned at RB Leipzig in Germany. He was there for a few years. He's learned the Red Bull system and he's come back and he's implemented it. And he really gave a lot of credit to Driller. And which, I think is fair enough. But I also I wonder if he's trying to create a bit of division there, because he also said that, I think he said, he got in the ear of, he tried to get in there of Bimby and he couldn't. And now he's got in the ear of Uffy and it's working, and, full credit to them. But I was thinking, is he just, this is the typical thing when you just try and give the second in command a little bit too much credit, so the first in command gets a little bit jealous. I thought that was a very good play from Rudin. What do you think? Am I overthinking this, Teo?
No, because coaches love to focus on what they do and only talk about their own side until it becomes incredibly convenient for them to seemingly know the inner workings of another side. This is absolutely done for a reason. I don't think it's so much about sowing the seeds of division as it is about gassing up Zrilic to try and get him a job somewhere else. Whether that somewhere else is outside the A-League and away from having to coach against Marco Rudan is another question. And should Ufi feel a little bit disrespected? Well, how do we know that maybe the three of them didn't concoct it all as a trio?
Bimby as well. They're all part of.
If the Wanderers coach is allowed to speculate about what Zrilic was saying to Steve Corica, then surely we are allowed to speculate about the motivations for them talking about such things.
It was really interesting. I really enjoyed it. I also really enjoyed Max Burgess, another friend of mine, on the megaphone with the crowd at the end. That was amazing to see. Obviously, Max, a local boy, was a Sydney FC fan growing up. That made Australian football fun for me this week. What also made fun is some of the names that are coming through. Edmund says Bogan Press instead of Gergen Press. I don't know. Bogan Press kind of... No, but Bogan Press kind of makes it seem like, I don't know, we want to go on the pokies or something after smashing 12 schooners. Like,
I mean, to be fair, we're two Socceroos starters away from the Bogan Press. We are.
Yeah. Do you think Bogan Press is a good name actually for the pokies? The Bogan Press. Jess says RB Zrilla. I mean, that. Ooh. If Ruth was giving Zrilla quite a bit of credit, Jess has just gone, let's name the team after him. So that's a hell of a way there. But guys, look, is there anything else you want to bring up from on the field matters this week?
I do have something. Yes.
No. Joe, go.
But what I have is what Teo has, and I want Teo to take the lead on this one.
Oh, no, I don't think so. Go. You go.
Okay. Well, firstly, I just wanted to, aside from what Taya's going to get to, I just wanted to mention the championship is heating up at the moment in England, and the top two teams at the moment are Leicester City, who have been leading it all season. Obviously, have Harry Sutar not playing for them so much, which isn't great. We hope that he gets promoted, and we hope that he gets back in the team. But also Ipswich Town, who have won 5 in a row. Mas Luongo is there, Burgess. The other Burgess is there as well. So. At the moment, the top two teams have some key Australians, which is really exciting because if they keep it up, Ipswich as well, 5 in a row. They haven't. I don't think they've lost in 6 now. Really good form.
Yeah, really, really good stuff. And look, actually, just to go back to those nicknames, because one has come in that I love. Sydney FC, they get talked about being a bit of a rich team, being from the east of Sydney. East of Sydney has a lot of connotations. Think of like Bondi and all that kind of stuff. East Sydney FC ? Says Joseph. RB liposuction. I mean, that is some good gear from Joe. But look, Joe, just on your point
Hang
there,
on, you had to spell it LEIP, liposuction. That's the joke. That's the core of the joke.
No, Joe, look, we're just yes-anding. We're just adding to this thing. Look, actually, one thing we need to do is we need to make an apology and a retraction, because last week we spent a bit of time on what we thought was the West Australian newspaper's back page. I think it was, what was it? Riley Steady Cook, Reedy Steady Cook,
Reedy
Steady
and
Cook,
also Basil's advice to Taylor Swift.
Yeah, and we thought it was ridiculous. We joked about it, and it turned out to be a big fake. So we do apologize for that. And here is our official spokesman to speak on our behalf.
We have been hoodwinked, bamboozled, led astray, run amok, and flat out deceived.
That's true.
So it's rough
true
week for us. But Joe, why do you think we made this mistake?
Well,
do you think we're going to learn from this?
No, I don't think so. I don't think we will learn from it. But look, gone are the days of Matt Tilley's gotcha calls. I didn't think this was happening anymore. But the article was so believable that all of us thought it was real. I mean, we all thought that. We did not even blink
it honestly never even crossed my mind that it was fake. Why wouldn't Basil Zemplis have advice for Taylor Swift? That seems like exactly the sort of story the West Australian is running. I mean, maybe we should have given it away is that apparently it was Gina Reinhardt's 70th birthday. Thank goodness we no longer refer to her as Gina Reinhardt 69. But it was Gina Reinhardt's 70th birthday, and maybe that was what was actually on the back page that day. Happy birthday, Gina.
Man, how come she hasn't bought an A-League team? What are you doing, Gina? Blake Hampton.
Because she literally buys individual Olympic athletes. That's
we got heaps of them now. The Matildas are going.
That is true. That is true. The Matildas aren't going to the Olympics.
You can buy 18 of them. When are the Olyroos? The Olyroos still in contention?
Olyroos qualifiers in April. A lot tougher. Put it this way: the Matildas got to cakewalk through they scored about 40 goals without conceding. If the Olyroos score 40 goals without conceding and qualify for the Olympics, then we should appoint Tony Vidmar as not just sort of the disruptor or the football czar. He should be able to pick his own role in football if he gets us through Olympic qualifying with 40 scored, none conceded.
Yeah, you know what? Wizard of Woy says, "Don't encourage Gina. She fucked netball up." Yeah, look, maybe I don't follow netball enough.
Sorry, so I don't. I traditionally don't swear on this show, but fuck netball, whatever.
But look, I think we just need some rich people. Anyway, so. Look, probably now, 50 minutes into the show, we will talk about what everyone is talking about. The statements are flying out. I always think we always talk on the show about make Australian football fun and things that make Australian football fun. I tell you what doesn't make Australian football fun. Official statements released on the hour every hour by a whole bunch of different people, clubs, especially ones that don't really say anything. There's a few separate official statements that can be made. There's the official statement that says we acknowledge that something happened. There's the official statement that says we are looking into something that happened. And then there's the official statement that says we will do something about the thing that happened, but we will not tell you what that thing is just yet. And then so you just end up being like, okay, what is the point of a lot of these statements? But a lot of these statements could just be run back from 2015 because it feels like this debate has happened over and over again, much to very frustrations. I remember bringing up multiple times on the World Game with Lucy Zelich, talking about the over-policing at the Sydney Derby, especially. I think the Sydney Derby is one of the great annual sporting events in Australian football because of the atmosphere. I think it has the best atmosphere in Australian football and in Australian sport, to be honest, when it's really going. But it was a massive shame to see the police once again, allegedly, I'm saying this here from Barcelona. I don't know the ins and outs of exactly what happened, but from all reports, there was a banner that was unfurled across the entire stadium. It looked amazing. Obviously, I believe my understanding is that when the fans do a banner like that, they obviously have to get club approval because also they're covering sponsors, and part of that approval is that they're going to, put the banner up for when the teams come out, and then they're going to pull it back, so the sponsors can be seen, and then they're going to retake their seats. And apparently when they were trying to retake their seats, that was when the whole issue happened, the whole kerfuffle. I don't know exactly what happened in that moment, but it was enough for the RBB to leave en masse. We saw videos of Brisbane Roar fans getting harassed at their game. And when we say Brisbane Roar fans, we really do mean teenagers, 16-year-olds. It was bizarre behavior from the police. And just again, all we want to do is have fun with Australian football. That's all we want to do. That's all, as far as I understand, is what the fans really want to do. And I think fans are pretty united on this front, more or less. Like Sydney FC fans will tell you, Wanderers fans will tell you, Victory fans will tell you, Brisbane Roar fans will tell you, even MacArthur fans. There's not very many of them, but they'll tell you the issues that they have consistently with security. It's something that has plagued this game for more or less the whole A-League, obviously the NSL as well. And we still seemingly haven't fixed it, Taya.
We haven't. And stepping up from the minutiae to big picture, one of the real issues I have is that Australia as a society hasn't actually determined what activities it believes young men can do collectively that are considered socially acceptable. So everyone thinks gambling's a scourge, and that racing and, the drinking culture of racing and gambling and the associations of those with masculinity, the mass advertising of gambling to children who it's been going on long enough that they are now young adults over the age of 18, some of them who can make their own bets and buy their own booze and what have you. Where is it that Australian society is actually providing an outlet for young men to collectively express themselves and have a feeling of society and unity? Don't have the church anymore. Football doesn't discriminate. You can be of any background and you can put on that shirt and you can associate with your fellow man. The Atomic Family ticket that went to the Big Bash pre-COVID doesn't exist anymore. All these A-League clubs are off chasing the dragon, thinking that that's the magic demographic that's going to come to the football. If that existed to the extent that it did, these clubs would invest a hell of a lot more in the A-League women's because that's where those fans would turn up. So maybe walk the walk on that, but also accept that one of the key demographics that will always follow the A-League, and they will go on to have kids and their own families eventually, will be young men wanting a collective sense of belonging. And the failure to embrace that of security, police, clubs, and let's not forget, a lot of people criticize HQ. It's like American sports now. HQ is like the NBA or the NFL. They appoint a commissioner to represent their interests. When the APL speaks, you have to remember that's my club speaking. This isn't a top-down management system where, Moses comes down from the mountain and reads off the tablets. The message comes up from the clubs to the commissioner, and that's where you get the statement from the APL. And that penny has not dropped for a lot of fans yet. You have to turn the attention onto your own club. And we brought this up. We brought this up after Marco Redan's initial speech about the stigma. I said that he wasn't specific enough. He needed to go into details and actually talk about how we never really resolved 2016. SCG Trust. We never really had apologies or acknowledgement that the wrong thing was done. And yet here we are. Everyone's talking about it within a month. Not saying MAFFS is a month ahead of the curve. Should be obvious by now. Of course we are. But I do think that there is this failure to acknowledge that young men are a key demographic of who follows this league. Their money is the same color as everyone else's, and they want a sense of belonging, and that sense of belonging is at the football. And Daniel McBreen on A-League Off Air, his podcast with Robbie Thompson, made a great point. You don't have police in the mosh pits at concerts. What has football done? What has football done that is any different to a mosh pit? It is so heavy-handed and unnecessary, and hopefully we get some resolution. I think the mentality. I think the mentality has to start that we want these fans at our games because we know that they are a key constituent.
You don't have fun with a lot of cops around, that's for sure. Jess says via YouTube, I was at Suncourt Stadium, and to be honest, stadiums, Queensland, and the police aren't making it easy for people to have fun. It's kind of two problems here. There's the police, the over-policing that happens, but also the security within the stadium, which, as far as I understand, is organized by the club, or at least organized by the stadium, which the club has an agreement with. She says they don't understand how football's active support works. Yeah, and it's been 20 years of the A-League.
There's no desire to understand. I mean, look at some of the scandals the Big Day Out had. Think of the turn of the century where tragically people were either, I think there were instances of people being crushed, but also overdoses and things like that. But this didn't, yes, it's a moral panic, but I do think the aggravating factor is, fear of the foreigner and wanting to protect the domestic codes. Music is perhaps its own world separate to sport because it is considered the arts, regardless of what the art form is, compared to football that's considered sport. It's just not good enough. It's really hard to be sympathetic when you see the footage that we do over the weekend and coloured by perhaps the distrust of authority that has been hardwired into a lot of people younger than me, with lockdowns. I mean, how do you think people who lost, year 11 and year 12 to lockdowns would be feeling about authority figures at the moment?
Yeah. Totally.
And these are the people who are now out in society getting to make their own decisions and use their disposable income if they have it for the first time. And then this is, the reception they receive at the football. Unacceptable.
Joe?
And it's exactly what you said, Taylor. It's the feeling of safety there. I mean, that's what Jess was saying in the comments as well. It's making it hard for people to have fun because they obviously feel threatened. It's kind of how I see it, is the protective service officers at the train stations. They have similar powers to police, but they're there to help for people in danger or things that aren't going right. We need this kind of similar attitude put towards the guards or the security or the police that are at the football. They're not there to stop people having fun and to bully people. They're to make sure everyone is having a good time. It's a different kind of attitude that needs to shift in that mindset.
I mean, the first-hand accounts, and you can take them or leave them, but Brisbane seems fundamentally broken in terms of how, yes, Sydney's got its problems as well, but Brisbane seems fundamentally broken. And then you realise, oh, wait, a former Queensland police officer is who we are being told by every media outlet in the country should become the Prime Minister. And you think, well, just throw your hands up and say, what hope do we have? Congratulations, Duts.
Yeah, and I do also wonder, like, at just a certain point, like, isn't this just a massive waste of taxpayer dollars? All these cops showing up at the Sydney Derby, like, is this not just a giant waste of money? There was obviously another massive event in Sydney this weekend, which I believe also the police weren't overly welcome at either. But it's just, I don't know, it's just the thing that is so frustrating for me is that I don't know how many times I personally have spoken about this into microphones. I don't know how many times people have spoken about it before me into microphones. People were sharing clips of Bozza back in the day on Fox Sports and what he had to say in 2015. This has been a problem for so long, and I'm surprised that, and like you say, to the APL, which is a collection of the clubs, doesn't have this already sorted. This was such a, it nearly killed our game. And I think people made a good point. In 2015, the league was actually in a really good spot, and this set the league back so far, and probably we're still reeling from it today. Like you say, it was never healed. But why? Shouldn't that be like priority number one? Guys, this was an absolute disaster for us. Let's make sure that, we never repeat this. Let's make sure that if we have any incidences, this is exactly how we do it. And, there's a lot of talk of we're investigating and blah, blah, and I'm not really sure what that means necessarily. I don't know if they have an investigations team.
You sometimes in this caper, you get punished for having a memory and you get punished for paying attention, and people seem to value a fresh pair of eyes, because a fresh pair of eyes is one you can pull the wool over.
Yeah, that's a really good point. But I don't know. It's very, it's a shit way to end the show. It's a shit thing that's kind of
okay. Well, let's make it fun. I think the aspirational solution here is that more clubs own their own stadiums, and so yes, police tend to prefer to protect property over people. But if you own your own stadium, you're far more advanced down the line in terms of determining the rules of conduct within your own house. And if you've built your own stadium and built your own CCTV, maybe you don't need 1 million coppers, because if someone rips a flare and burns a seat, you've got the CCTV, you've got how they entered the stadium, you've got their name, and they're the ones on the hook for 400 or 800 or whatever it is to replace that chair, right? Instead of collective punishment, just one person, and instead of doing it by frog marching him out and pinning him in the back and putting him in a scorpion lock as you take him away, it's in fact tracking them down after they've left the stadium, instead of making a scene in the stadium. It wouldn't kill us, to take ownership of our own spaces, instead of having to share other spaces where, the double standards are, so much more amplified, because we see the crowd fights at, Unite Round? No, not that's the A-League one. Magic Round in the NRL. And the contrast of people just punching on, no secos, no cops. They're allowed to throw haymakers for a good 2 minutes and pile in, and no one seems to have given a toss about it. Whereas cheering too loud gets you frog marched out of Suncorp. Like, the double standards are an obscenity. They are so wrong. So I think the aspiration is own our own spaces, set our own rules, and do things a better way.
I was thinking, and to make it a kind of fun solution to this problem, is get every A-League fan to dress up as security guards or police officers, and just confuse the police and the security guards. Like, imagine there's 10,000 people in active. They're all in security. Security is unsure who is actually security. They don't know, and they're like arrested. And they go, "No, but bro, I'm working with you. What are you talking about?"
This is like that. This is like that scene in Being John Malkovich, where Malkovich himself goes into the tunnel and everyone's got his face. That's genius. Exactly.
You see, so this is my solution to A-League fans: is everyone dress up as security, confuse the hell out of them. They'll have no idea what's going on. If people if there's footage, because this is also the other thing, footage gets on the kind of national news and people freak out and they're like, Australian football does it again, blah, blah, blah. And they, the dramatic music comes in and they zoom in on like a empty bottle or something on the grass, and they're like, chaos in the streets. Is anyone safe? Imagine you see the footage and it's a police officer arresting like security guards, and you're like, what's going on? What are these police doing? This is how I think maybe we can get around it. But look, it's not great. What I will finish on, Joe, unless you have any other further points on this?
No, I was just going to back you up with a yes, and I love that idea. Let's make the next round, MAFFS round, come in your finest security kits, take a photo. Let us know how you go.
Look, to finish, we have to talk about the burning topic of the weekend, as Sky Blue's Views put it. He said, try Turkish chips for the first time with a kebab pre-game. 3.5 out of 4 potatoes for me. Question, which country/cuisine makes the best hot chips, and what condiments do you mix it with? Yes, I love to finish on this. Someone followed up and said, what's different about Turkish hot chips specifically? And Sky Blue's Views pointed out, great question. I don't even know if there's a big difference or if they're copying others. The crispiness and salt composition were all on point, though, and I want to know if that's a Turkish speciality. Joe, I mean, you're a bit of a food connoisseur. We've talked about it previously. Who do you think does the best chips?
Look, I didn't think we'd be U-turning to salt composition so quickly, but I love it. Who does the best chips? I actually didn't see this comment, so this is coming fresh to me. But my mind straight away went to Greece, of course. Nick, you and I, Greek boys, with a little bit of feta sprinkled on top. That's...
You know what? Can I say as well? Very underrated with when you're seasoning chips or any potatoes, oregano. Just oregano. Get that oregano on top. Olive oil is crucial. But you know what? And I'd never, ever, ever give these people a compliment. Except sometimes you just got to give it the truth. You know who do chips really well? And this is really the only food that I can say that they do well. Is the English. The English do chips well. The English are good known. You know, they've got chippies, you know, and I got to say, Spain does a lot of food well. The chips here are horrendous. These guys have no idea what they're doing when it comes to chips. I actually yearn for Australian chips, you know, and like I say, Turkish chips as well. But very important is the crispiness, the saltiness. It needs to be well seasoned. Don't give me no unseasoned chips. Horrendous. But that's crucial. But Teo, your favorite country of chips?
Australia, mate. Red Rooster.
Yeah, Red Rooster.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Look, it is
good stuff.
Here's something I just wanted to ask you. Just on the, you know, Jess asked the question: are the Irish any good at chips? Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of, you know, not to group all that area in. I know there's quite a lot of issues with doing that. But I think the Irish are quite good at chips. Joseph points out the Belgians do the chips best by far, double fried in duck fat. Now, duck fat potatoes are delicious. Great call. Duck fat's quite expensive, and it does take a while to make. So you got to know if you're going to do that. You got to put in the hours, got to put in the time. But what I'd say is the Belgians and the Dutch, they're too into the mayo on the chips, and I'm not a big fan of mayo on chips. That's not really for me. I think you just need good seasoning. You don't even need sauce. Just seasoning is the crucial thing.
Stoll, how do you feel about an HSP then with the Holy Trilogy of sauces? Is it too much for you?
It can be. I think sometimes because the HSP, it makes the chips soggy. And I think that's like almost, I think what's important, HSP, I do love it, but I do think if you can divide a little bit your chips and kind of whatever meat or vegetables that you're having with it in order to keep the chips crispy. Because like I said, and you know what, I got to give a shout out. If you're in Sydney, Barumi, which is in Barangaroo and I don't know, there's another location, but there's one in Barangaroo. The chips at Barumi are unbelievable. I'm actually coming back to Sydney for like a week in 2 weeks, and one of the first places I'm going is Barumi to just get their chips. Absolute, more addictive than crack cocaine. Oh my God, I love them so much. This is incredible. Anyway, so look, maybe that's where we should end it, guys, unless you have anything else to add for this week. Joe, anything for you?
No, I think we've covered chips, so I reckon I'm good for the week. Yeah, that's me done.
Look, let us know in the comments where the best chips are. Teo, anything else to add?
Wednesday, next Young Matildas game at a different stadium, which did not have snow covering it. So tune in 10 p.m., 10 play.
Maybe they'll import snow. Maybe they'll bring it in. But look, our girls know what to do with it now. Look, thank you very much for tuning in. We'll see you next week. And hopefully we can have more of a fun week. And hopefully the fans issue get resolved. We'll see you next week.